Hi, I'm Jamie. This is Dead Dodge Garage, and this, of course, Dale's Demon. There's a really good chance you know by now that I'm going to be lining this car up next to Uncle Tony's slag hammer. You know, a period, straight axle, gasser, street freak style car with a big block under the hood. Admittedly, these are two completely different style cars, but kind of hailing from the same era, the early 1970s. It'll be interesting to line them up. Of course, I've got an extra pedal he doesn't have. I might be at a disadvantage here. There have been a whole lot of comments on this deal, many of them relating to like ice cream cake, but don't worry about that. It seems like people are pretty excited to see it, and that's cool. Oh, one guy commented on my video calling out Tony when I referred to this car as being original paint and said, "That's not original paint! The whole front clip's been repainted. I'm a painter and I restore cars and I can tell from here." I'm gonna do a whole video on that, I've decided. I'm gonna borrow a paint gauge, run it all over this car, and then we'll just see what's what. Yes, there is a notable color mismatch from the fender to the front valance. Ignore the fact that in the 50-year-old picture of the car, it kind of looks like it doesn't match anyway. That may well have been resprayed, the whole panel. I mean, there are touch-ups on the car. There are dings, there are scratches, all kinds of little stuff. That could even be a replacement panel. I don't know. Those things always end up bashed. These are AMD bumpers, which are rusting in like less than 5 years, having been stored inside the whole time, but that's another story. That quarter panel was resprayed. It was resprayed because it was hit on a drag strip in the 70s. We know that. It's easy to prove. It's got the wrong primer under it. Why am I dedicating so much time to this? I don't know, I'm just irritated. Grandpa's gotta sit down. Grandpa's tired. Anyway, there were a bunch of other comments trying to give me tips on suspension setup and, things of that nature. I appreciate it, but I am not asking for that. I'm familiar with drag race suspension setups on classic Mopars. I know what I'm doing. Okay, I at least mostly know what I'm doing. A lot of what I know came from Dale himself, the man that raced this car to success back in the 1970s. But there is one important difference between what he did and what I'm doing, and that's what I want to cover right now. Back in the bad old days when he was racing the car, Dale ran slick tires. Of course he did. When he revived the car in the 2000s, he switched to these ET Street radials because the car was not going to be a dedicated drag car anymore. It made some runs down the track, but mostly it was for cruising around and going to shows and that sort of thing. On the street, these tires work remarkably well. I can't even really do big smoky burnouts because they just start grabbing and the car rolls out. It pushes through the brakes. It's pretty effective. On the track, however, the same thing applied to doing a burnout. It wouldn't just keep spinning the tires, it just started shoving. But when I would go to launch it, it would just blow the tires off. And I think I've worked out why. Dale ran a pinion snubber, because of course he did. That's the trick. He actually ran it preloaded against the floor because that was the way he got the best launches. That kind of makes sense with a wrinkle wall slick, but with this tire, that's not going to work. This car has an adjustable pinion snubber, and it's been run up into the floor like that so long that the floor is actually dented. What I need to do for now is lower that snubber to allow the springs to work. Hopefully that'll solve the blowing off the tires issue. Of course, I still need to get the tire pressure right, but that's another deal. Now there's one other thing on this car that hinders weight transfer. Dale always ran it with the sway bar in place. I don't think it's ever been off the car. And it worked. I mean, I've seen pictures of this thing pulling the front tires back in the 70s. In my case, I think I need to pull it off. I think we'll get better weight transfer, the nose will be able to lift, and we'll get more weight planted over those tires. So I'm going to start with those two changes and see where that gets me. For now, I'm going to leave springs alone. I'm going to leave shocks alone. Just pull the bar and drop the snubber. This car actually has old school tunable drag shocks on the back. I'm not really sure how they're set. They're really super rudimentary too. You can't actually just turn a knob like those fancy new ones. You've got to take them off and rotate the rod, or some tuning may be needed there, but honestly at this point, I don't know where to go. I have no idea what kind of shocks these are here on the front. Oh wow, I'm like on the bump stops. Huh. Anyway, we might need to mess with these too. At least one person commented to tell me about super stock springs. Oh, what? These? Yeah, I've actually heard of them. That set's going on my Barracuda. This car's running the factory 340 springs with no clamps in the back, clamps in the front. Old school Mopar drag race stuff. I'm gonna leave them alone. I think they'll be fine. The super stock springs firm up the right side and they also raise the car somewhat. I don't really think that's what I want for weight transfer. If I need to put extra preloading on the right side, well, I'll steal another one of Uncle Tony's tricks and we'll manage that without a spring change. I think we'll be good with these. Huh. Why am I missing a motor mount bolt? Oh, someone else said to get a polyurethane transmission mount? Okay, done. I think the same commenter was talking down on these solid motor mounts. I've got no problem with these. They work just fine. Also, pay no attention to the oil seeping out of the pan. I guess I need to snug that up. Big job is going to be changing out this flywheel. Notice it's got a balance weight screwed onto it. That was supposed to be for an LA360, but judging by the way this thing vibrates, I don't think so. Okay, add rear joint to the list. I definitely don't want to talk about the leaking pinion seal either. If you're a Mopar guy, you definitely know that the underside of the car shouldn't be black. I'm not totally sure why Dale did that. You know, I've noticed that before, but I only just noticed this. That's unfortunate. It might be time for an exhaust system. Here's a look at that incredibly smashed pinion snubber plate. That's bad. Also, it looks like I have the snubber all the way down already. I lowered it one position for science, mostly so I'd have some rear suspension travel. And yeah, can't go any lower. So I think I'll probably just pull that thing out altogether. Here's a comparison between the factory snubber and the Go Fast adjustable height unit. We'll shelve that. I'm going to put a factory one back on there, you know, just in case. You can see how far away the axle bump stop is. Of course, there's a leaf spring at work here. The axle will move more here than here, but still, I'd like to have this in place basically as a safety. Like I said, there's some touch-ups. There's another one now, that panel behind the bumper. Factory exhaust tip mounts. Extra exhaust mount bracket, because 340 car. Look at the trunk well. So amazing that's still there. That's a rare feature in Pacific Northwest A-bodies. Oh yeah, someone asked about torque boxes. I'm fairly sure those were standard on all 340 cars. I could be wrong. This one definitely has them, as you can see. It also has subframe connectors. I was fully expecting to see extra tension on the torsion bar adjusting bolt here on the left. That would raise this corner of the car and help to put more load on the rear right. But that bolt's actually farther out than that one. Oh, someone got super grumpy in the comments on another video because I referred to torsion bars as springs. What the heck do you think they do? They act like springs. Anyway, I've got to clean the underside of this thing really bad. For driving on the street, a sway bar is a great thing to have. It ties together the two lower control arms and prevents horrible body roll. On the track, though, the sway bar can prevent the suspension from drooping easily, so that can be a hindrance to weight transfer. Again, Dale always ran it, but I think I'm going to take it off. We'll see what happens. To remove the sway bar, it's just the end link nuts over here, 2 mount bolts on each bracket, and this support brace that goes from the radiator support to the K-frame has to be temporarily removed. These are 7/16. Everything on the sway bar is 1/2 inch. You do need a wrench for these. Now, as with every other single piece of hardware that has ever come off this car, it'll go in the parts pile for future reinstallation. Oh, I don't know if anyone noticed, but it did take out the grandpa minivan cup holder thing too. We don't need that where we're going. Now, of course, that change does take a bit of weight off the nose too. Like 7 or 8 pounds or something. I will scale this car at some point. That would be an interesting exercise. Hey, this is why you want subframe connectors. Watch the door gap. Notice it only opened up a little bit? Try that on a car without them. It's terrifying, especially a convertible. Well, the sun's peeking out, but good chance it's gonna rain some more. Really good chance. And the ground's wet, so this isn't exactly a great day for demon testing. But I do have to move it off the lift to do dumb stuff, so I guess it's going for a drive anyway. Did you know that it's basically always the outer wall of the left side rear tire that rubs on these Mopars? Well, it is. And this wheel lip has already been rolled quite a bit, but this tire still contacts it, so I may need to roll that a bit more. These tires are kind of old, and I probably should replace them. I'm not going to, but I probably should. Anyway, I took them out of full street mode and put them in kind of sort of street mode, by which I mean I dropped the pressure to 20. I know it's going to need to be lower than that come race day. I'm just curious if you've got experience with this type of tire, what sort of pressure do you run in them? I've heard kind of conflicting reports. The brakes are loose enough on this car that it rolls really nicely. In neutral, the drag through the input shaft is enough to move it on not at all level ground. Kind of cool. In the call-out video, our friend Mexican Spec left a really interesting question in the comments. How do you know right away that this is an original 4-speed car? And the answer, dash-mounted reverse indicator. Usually when you see a car swapped, they don't add that. It's easy enough to drill the hole and wire it, I'm just saying. There are other ways too, of course. The brace for the clutch linkage in the driver's inner fender is my go-to, but the reverse light is a great tell. I just washed this car. The pollen and dust around here is terrible. Oh good, it's raining again. Not ideal track conditions. Here's the body roll without the bar. It's noticeable. Yeah, little slick today. Yeah, not a great day for this. And it's supposed to dry out later this week, so hopefully I can go make some test hits and see what's what. With any luck, it'll continue not raining, and in like an hour, the road will be dry enough. We'll go out for a test run. But I've never been known for my luck. Well, it's hours later. In between rain clouds. I still need to fix the rattle above the clutch pedal. That's very annoying. Drive this thing on the road a lot, but I do some. So I'm interested to see how much worse the handling is without the sway bar. Let's find out. Still holds the road pretty well. Of course, it's still damp over here. I guess that's how today's gonna go. Well, we're here anyway. What I've always liked to call the Wishkah River Test and Tune Facility. Quick tire clean off. Yeah, no traction of any kind, basically. Oh yeah, remind me to get a U-joint. It's gonna be important. Definitely gonna have to roll that quarter lip more. Just scrub that tire going over. Not a very big bump, actually. I really thought the sway bar deleting would have been more noticeable. It's not bad at all. It's not like this thing's a handling course car anyway. That might stay off for some time. Oh yeah, I think I mentioned the brake issue. I replaced one wheel cylinder already because it popped a seal. And I thought the other one might be going. Actually, I think it's a brake line I need to repair. It leaks from a union or something. You know why they added those reverse lights on the dash? Because first and reverse are right next to each other, and if you're not paying attention, I suppose it's probably possible to grab the wrong one. It's never happened to me. Yet. Yeah, car's getting an unexpected path. Welcome to Grays Harbor. Enjoy your stay. You ever heard that Creedence song? Something about rain on a sunny day. Yeah, it's kind of just normal around here. Wow. Dude, the pavement was dry 15 minutes ago. All I want to do is test this car and find out if it works. But no. It's been over a week since I filmed the beginning of this video. I kind of got engrossed in this whole ramp truck thing. Yeah, I can't even get the car out right now, so that's good. There are a good few things left to do with this thing as far as setup. For one thing, front suspension. I did pull the bar off, and as you could see in those driving clips, the front end is lifting, which is good. But I still need to do a couple more things with the front end setup. For one thing, the torsion bar adjustments are backed almost all the way out, to the point that this thing's barely off the bump stops, as you saw earlier in this video. So I'm going to play with that a little bit. Also, the shocks up here, I don't know what they are. I'm strongly considering putting a set of cheapo Monroes with some extra ventilation drilled in them up here. That would help with weight transfer as well. Obviously, the big thing I still need to do is change out that flywheel. I've either got a neutral balance flywheel from a 340 and a sandwich plate, or I do have a correct 360 flywheel, but that one's not in the best of shape. We're gonna go ahead and make the flywheel swap its own video. Now, I really wanna test this thing on a track. Considering that the last time I tried to launch it, I had horrible traction problems, I need to find out if my little tweaks are gonna improve things. What are you doing, little guy? Anyway, I made a minor tactical error. It turns out the only test and tune at my closest local track, Bremerton, was last Friday. Somebody was too busy building a ramp truck to go to a test and tune last Friday. So, if you're watching this and you're in Washington, roughly, and your local racetrack has a test and tune Friday, May 24th, let me know that, because I really want to get some test hits in with this thing. Incidentally, on my way down to Tennessee, I am going to be making a stop in Arkansas and hooking up with another certain Mopar-oriented automotive YouTuber. And we'll probably have some fun there doing drag race type stuff. But that's another story. Anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and call it for this one. Tune in next time when we swap out the flywheel, and then hopefully, find a racetrack to test this thing on. Oh yeah, people keep asking me about the Bel Air in the background of a bunch of videos. It runs, it moves, it stops. It needs some stuff. It's got a healthy 350 under the hood. And if you're interested, it's in Western Washington. It's $3,500, and I've got the title in hand. I've been working on a video about this car for a really long time. I don't want to talk about it. Anyway, until next time, thanks for watching. And remember, Mother Nature is a bastard.